Join me today as we continue our work on our front porch project. This week we install the window and its trim, the door and its trim, and we add the brick. We even add a fake curtain inside the window. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this is to do. Alright, so I'm refilming what is going to be kind of a section of this video to catch you up to what I did between the last video where we worked on the porch and this one. Last video we were starting to put the siding on, and I have finished off my siding. You're even seeing what we're doing today. I finished my siding off. I put the lap siding with the upholstery trim strip, and this is all I have left out of that package, on just the front, the side, and then this side, and the side of the roof, which I'll try and get some photos and overlay on this part of the video. I decided on the back two sides to just use a tissue paper paint technique like I showed you on our siding video. And I also, of course, had worked on the bricks, and I told you about that when I did our siding cube, where I showed you all the different kinds of siding that I had already done this for here. The paint I used, I first base coated all of my trim strip with just white craft paint to work as kind of a primer, because I found that the paint looked better over white, and I didn't want to use as much of the green, because the green I used is a ceramic coat light foliage green, and I only bought one small bottle, and I've used most of this bottle. This is pretty much empty at this point. I used all of it on this project. But I did that, and then I coated all the siding with matte Mod Podge just to give it a slight sheen. I did the same paint combination on the back two sides as I did on the clapboard. When we get to the trim, I'll talk about how I did that. And I also did a base coat of just a black craft paint. I used my ceramic coat in black. I wanted a matte black finish for underneath my roofing, because next video we'll be putting the roofing on. And I didn't want the white foam core to show through. Now, you don't have to do this before you do your siding. My issue is I know I'm a sloppy painter, and I knew if I got this all put together and then painted this, I would most likely have splashed black paint all over my brick, all over my window, all over my green paint. So I went ahead and painted this and then did the green. I don't care if there's a little green on here. That's okay if there's a little green under the roofing. I didn't want any black where it would show. So that's where we're at. Let me get switched over to where we put our door and window in and our curtain, and I hope you enjoyed the video today. Alright, so if you've been watching the different videos in this series, you saw me make this window. And I've been debating for a couple of weeks what I wanted to do for the faux window treatment. Keep in mind, we're never going to be seeing this from the inside. We're only going to see the curtain behind the window. So it's just a fake window treatment. And I thought about using fabric. I thought about using all kinds of things. But I wanted to make this super easy, super inexpensive, and something anyone can do. Oh, and by the way, look forward to a blog-only post on why I do a lot of projects like I do on using common materials. But that's a total different rant. So I thought about this. How do I want the window treatment to look, and what do I want to use? Like I said, I thought about fabric, I thought about all kinds of things, and then I realized that I had a cardboard box sitting next to my desk. I did this off camera. All this is, it's a flap from a shipping box. It was a priority mail box that something came in. And I peeled the one layer off, and I did find that one layer peeled much easier than the other one. And I'm going to make some straight cuts here. I want to have a straight edge. So what I did, I peeled off a layer of paper, knocked off as much of this extra little bit that I could, and I painted it with 2 layers of white craft paint. And this is what I'm left with. Well, let's see how wide is this. I'm going to try and cut it about in half. So it's 3 inches. Like I said, this is never going to, you know, we're not really going to see, whoops, I'm not really going to see this. It's going to be inside. This is now the back side of a pair of drapes. I thought it would be really cool. It looks like drapery from the back, so that's what I'm using. So let's see if I'm going to try and work upside down so you guys will be able to see better. But I'm going to glue this right in here, just like that. Glue that one there, and glue this one right over here. See, that edge is, this edge looks a little better. And I'm just going to glue those in. So let me locate where I laid my glue. Hopefully I can do this on camera. Yeah, I know some of you are probably disappointed that I didn't do everything on camera this week, but I've been busily trying to get caught up with where I left off with the video. And the reason I don't know how much I'm going to get done this week is because I have a pretty busy work schedule this week. I have today, which is Wednesday. I have Friday, and I have Saturday. And I have only part of Friday and part of Saturday. I work both of those days, but later in the day. I simply don't have the time to get some of the videos done that I used to do. And I think I just put the glue on the wrong side of this, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. And I'm using my Beacon 3-in-1 because it holds so much easier. Alright. Now it just looks like somebody has pulled the drapes. So I want to make sure that this glue is dry before I go on to the next step. So I am going to go get some clamps because I forgot to bring my clothespins in here. I'm going to clamp this with some clothespins, making sure that my folds in my fake drapes are going straight. And I'm going to let this glue set up, and when it's set up, I'll be back and we'll put the window in. Alright, so my curtain thing is dry. I did end up having to add another little strip of the upholstery trim because when I tried this in here, I realized it was not going to cover all the way to that one. So I've just painted it and put some clear on it so it can be ready when I'm ready for it. So now we need to work this window in. So I've got side to side, it fits just fine, but I've got a little bit of stuff up there that's keeping it from fitting where it's supposed to. This could have been done before I glued the curtains in or after. It doesn't matter as long as you don't cut down into your curtain. And it's okay if it's a little loose because we are going to put a trim strip around it. Alright, now it fits. So I am going to, oops, unfortunately I set my glue on its base and not on its top. And I'm going to put Beacon 3-in-1, just not a huge amount, just a little. It doesn't have to be a lot. Yeah, I should have had this upside down. I had it upside down and then I used it to glue this on and forgot to put it back. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to glue my brick down too at the same time. And it's okay that that's still wet. That's fine. This glue will adhere to just about everything. By having my curtains being made out of the cardboard, they do help support that window a bit. That is nice. Alright, now let's get this here. I'm going to fasten my glue shut. And I'm going to support this first with something to keep it from, that's a little too tall. There. And then I'm going to weight this down because I want this to stay flat. So I'm going to let this glue dry and then I'll be back and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so that glue has had probably about 5 or so minutes and that's not going to go anywhere as long as I'm careful. So now I'm going to glue our door in place. That's one of the things I love about the Beacon 3-in-1 glue is it does hold almost immediately. So spraying glue around the three. Did not want to get the glue string on the front of that. You do have to watch for glue strings with this. That is the one downside to it. And I did fit this. I dry fit it. I did a dry fit before I turned the camera on. Now, this can go right in here. And glue. Get it where you want it. And now that glue, I want the glue to actually dry now. I'm going to put that back under there. I want this glue to set up pretty well before I start trying to put the trim on. I want this to just a little more there. Fairly even. So this glue can set up and then I'll be back and we'll cut trim to go around the 3 sides of this and the 3 sides of the door. Alright, so off camera I cut and put a finish on all the pieces I'm going to use to trim the window and the door. I purposely didn't film this because I don't think I'm doing it correctly and I don't really feel comfortable showing you guys how to do this step because I'm not that good at it. But I just cut and then recut until I get it to the size I want. So the window has 4 pieces. It has a windowsill and then it has the 2 sides and the top. The top has the miter. So let's go ahead and get this glued in and hopefully everything fits the way I think it's going to. So I painted these with, and these are just scrap wood that were in my scrap wood bucket. I painted them with a light ivory from Ceramic Coat and then I put a satin Mod Podge over the top. And once again, I am using my Beacons 3-in-1. Yeah, what I do is I cut the angle for the top on these side pieces, and then I cut the piece to length to fit. And then as far as the top went, I cut it long and just started cutting it down until it fit. Maybe if I get myself enough practice, I can feel comfortable and I will do a video on how to cut the trim. Alright, and then these two pieces are just cut to fit like this, and then that's cut to go across the top. Turn this just a little bit so that I can see. I'm trying to line these pieces up so they line up with the edge of this side piece that we put on. Hopefully you're seeing what I'm doing, but I've got to have it so that I can see it also. One more piece needs glue. And this is just a piece of trim wood that I had left over from a project. I think it came with my very first Dollhouse kit. I'm not positive. Okay, that's lined up, that's lined up. So I had glue on my finger. I want to get that off before it dries. So I am going to turn everything off and let this dry. Well, I would normally say let it dry overnight, but tomorrow I work a really long shift at work, so it will probably be day after tomorrow in the morning when I get back to show you how this looks. So I'll talk to you then. Alright, now that glue is all dried. I love how the trim looks. I'm not happy with this spot here because that's really, really bumpy. So what we're going to do is fix that. I cut a piece of the same upholstery trim strip that my siding is. You see, it'll fit right there. So I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to get my very, very messy painting file. This is an absolute mess, but that's okay. I can clean it when I'm all done with the project. And in case you wanted to see the paint, I do in the blog post, I'm going to go into detail of what colors I used. This is the color I used for the walls. It's light foliage green from Ceramicoat. The rest of it, which I think I talked about in the introduction to the video, I actually did a base coat of white under it, but for this little strip, I think it'll be okay. I'll probably put 2 coats on. So I'm going to let this paint dry, and when this is dry, I'll come back, I'll put a second coat on, and then I'll put a coat of the matte Mod Podge, and when that's dry, I'll come back and I'll show you how to glue it into place. Alright, so this is all done. I am going to kind of neaten up the top of it just a bit. And now, put some glue in. Down first. And then just slide this in kind of behind the trim on the door. And then push it down into the glue. Make sure it's straight. And I'm going to put that on the end. I'm going to let that glue dry, and then I'll show you how I trim it. Alright, so this glue has now dried for probably about an hour or so. So I'm going to show you how I go about trimming this. I usually try to trim it, turn it so I can see the back. And I start by using a pretty strong pair of scissors. And if there's still some I need to cut off to make it flush with the bottom. then I use this. I like to get most of it off with the scissors first so it's not in my way. And frankly, a lot of times I'm done at that point. I don't actually have to use the knife, only if I'm in an area where I couldn't get close to it. So I think that is what we are doing today. Next week, or next video, we will be putting roofing on this porch. Be sure and check the blog post. I'll go into a little more detail on things and try to have some photos. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.